as well. Definitely, you know, it happens, and stuff like that is never always fun to be around. But we want to go back to the cherry subject of today about the solo queue watch. It is going to be L3RD. Going to be doing the host or the episode today, but also check out the sponsors and also the website that actually still runs the show, d-esports.com. On top of that, all the sponsors below: XMG, Trotten, BenQ, Madcats, and the one, the only, and Tech. But first off, you know, we were talking about just really quickly the awesomeness of, you know, solo queues, unorthodox picks, and today we are kind of still talking about that unorthodoxness, but we're going to be talking about what could happen, what should happen in a game of League of Legends, the do's and don'ts of solo queue. And again, it is a really oftentimes hard kind of subject to really think about. Like, solo queue is never the funnest of things to really be around, or solo queue could be the funnest thing to you. I mean, if you're like that, that's cool. I'm all for it. But solo queue is always determined on communication, on, you know, people's just awareness, and people's awesomeness as well, but also your self-rate and your self kind of play. And if you aren't too self-confident on yourself, or you're down and downturn as well, like we were saying about last game, you know, you're not going to have the funnest of times. And in this instance where we're watching right now, you're not going to have the funnest of times if there's 3 people invading and you're not blocking off your other path. Again, solo queue is all dependent on making aggressive plays. I would say aggressiveness is good, but making plays on your terms. If you play onto your terms and you know you're making the right plays, at least with a few members of your team, you're usually oftentimes going to have a great amount of time, and you're going to have a really easy win per se, right? A really easy win per se. And we are seeing this right now with the blue team, where they're grouped up over by this tri-brush over here. The purple team / red team are kind of getting ready, maybe to face check this brush, or maybe to take rolls over here. You never know. That's never gonna be good when you have 3 members already here, sneakily in the brush. We do see a poke out from that Corgi, but they are going for the walls over here. Now, unfortunately, this might turn out to be a really bad thing. Oh my god, this could turn out to be a deadly thing for the blue team right over here. And here we go, it is going to be Alistair popping up, and it is going to be so much damage happening to Corki, unfortunately for not, and it's also going to be on the one and only Sona as well. So again, yeah, I know that was kind of premeditated because it kind of saw that was going to happen. But yeah, it's not unfortunately good to be in that position of, well, we just gave up 2 kills, we just lost your blue buff, and now we're going to have a really bad time in this laning phase, especially since we gave the kills to that bottom lane. Really quickly, if you are going for an invade, sometimes you're that opposing warder, you're that opposing jungler that could have extra ward. That would be probably Nunu per se, if you want to be the jungle Nunu and have the extra ward on top of that, because you have Consume, you have Smite as well, so you can do both red buffs and blue buff pretty easily. You want to ward out on at least one of these entrances over here and the brushes. That's why you do see that Nilly trap over here. But yeah, having that little bit of extra sight won't only give you, you know, a chance of finding the opposing team, but also gives you a chance of getting kills and such like that. Knowing the position of the opposing team just gives you that much one-up advantage, but it also gives you that much kill potential as well into a first level invade, especially since you don't really expect it with the team. Well, actually no, you expect it with the team when you have the Alistair in there. So what are some common things that happen during a solo queue game? Invades happen, then we just saw that gives them advantage. Jungle aggression, that happens too, that could be possibly happening. Lane duo kind of problems as well, that happens a little bit with the team. We just saw they, well, we didn't see, but the Sona just got caught up by an Alistair again. Again, Tristana Alistair is a very, very dangerous comp, and it's very tough to play against that kind of thing. But yeah, jungle aggression is the next little topic we just saw, or we didn't just see, but again, over in top lane, just a little bit of damage is happening, and a pick off from the awesomeness of both Rumble and Hecarim. I mean, jungle aggression is a thing that's going to be predominantly there, if you're a fast jungler like Mundo and like Hecarim, between the 3 to 5 minute mark, or if you're like a gank heavy jungler like a Lee Sin or an Alistar, you're going to be seeing them come into either playing at top or playing at bottom or middle around that 3 minute mark, maybe in that 2:30 mark, and 2 minutes and 30 second mark, which really is tough to kind of defend against. And it's all just, you know, general map awareness that you have to know and be at to really catch up onto that. But unfortunately for not, sometimes you can't really do anything about that. So, you know, definitely one thing you need to learn is to see the competency, like, oh, this is generally the timing that's going to happen, oh, this is generally what's going to be, you know, onto me, where I'm Nidalee, per se, if you want to check on this, and I'm not level 6, so I'm not going to have that extra move speed bonus with that Cougar form. If I do have that extra move speed bonus with the Cougar form, I could do a little bit more, but not level 6. And you see the Teemo getting chased over here, gets a cleaver off is Mundo, but Mundo not getting, oh, he does smack one right in the face of Teemo. Does miss out that one. Is Teemo going to get out of it alive? He is moving kind of quick. Definitely not, because that red buff does proc off last one and last killing onto that Teemo. And I mean, that's just aggression from this Mundo. Just getting those extra ganks off, getting the denial of that vision over that mid lane, and really just hurting onto that team. So that's really cool to see. That's really good to see from them as well. And we do see, oh, that's a perfect pulverize, and on top of that, just to kill it easily for that Tristana as well, with that secureness of that one the only Mundo. So again, lots of damage coming out from the team comp in general, but also just really good aggression that's happening from the jungler. And it's something that can be noted. It's really a thing that you're going to have to watch out for in solo queue. Because again, once you dictate pressure, once you dictate the game, you pretty much control the game into your own terms. Determination of where the weakest lane is the next / probably the last little common thing that you should know, kind of note about. Right now we see that this bottom lane over for the Pred team isn't the strongest per se. I mean, they do have a Sona that is now 0-3, 0. You have that Corki, he's only 0-1, so it's not that behind. But 36 CS compared to 35, it's not that bad. The kill difference though is super huge. On the other side, I mean, you do have that top lane juice right now, but Nidalee is pretty strong, but again, I don't know why she was risking that much over there. She probably could have just gone back. There's kind of no way she could catch up to that rumble. So unfortunately, you know, everything is going well for this bottom lane blue team. Decently doing well for this one over mid lane, because he does have 3 assists. But over that top lane, it's a little different of a story, which is really interesting to see from both teams in general. So in general, you find your weakest lane, you say, oh, I'm going to help this lane out. It's like the Mundo Slago is going to have to probably just go up there a little bit more, or they're going to have to go just enough middle lane and bottom lane, and then just kind of build from there. While in turn, the purple team / red team is going to have to do the same thing. They're going to have to go to the bottom lane, they're going to have to go to the middle lane to secure pretty much more kills and such like that. Or they don't have to go back to middle lane, because we do see Teemo just picking up an easy kill over there. While, oh, well, about that Mundo, he's going to come right back in behind and say, well, I don't think you can get out of this one through Teemo. I don't think so. So, in general, you know, you just have to find your weakest lanes for both teams and literally focus on either helping or just ignoring and just hopefully saying, oh, I hope they don't give out more kills, and I hope I don't have to babysit them even more so. So yeah, we do see another damage down onto the Corki. Corki gonna get jumped on from that rocket jump, but instantly is also down this Tristana. Unfortunately for now, Tristana still has enough damage to keep on going in the problem game.
Shut down.
Does pick up another kill, it is that Tristana, or Persona, but Persona is probably not gonna get this one per se. I think it's gonna go right to Hecarim, and we do see Mundo comes right back into it and try to take up a kill over here, but a little bit too late. Again, Hecarim coming down at the time, probably a little late, but he couldn't really help it from there. Had to do some farming to actually get to a potential level 6, and did get off his Onslaught Shadows to help out, but again, helping out that bottom lane will kind of help out the game in general for both teams, so that'll really secure a little bit more stuff for that red team. But for the blue team in general, they can't really lay off their laurels. They should be able to push up a little bit more, especially because they have a kill lead, but they're losing it pretty quickly. What are the most important times for the game of League of Legends? In Summer's Rift, the biggest times I would say, first one would be about 2 minutes, or 150 to 155 to about 205. Like between those timings, there's the timings where you do see the first jungle buff being taken. And if you can guess which jungle buff they're taking, blue side or red side, and again, that's kind of how you can kind of pick up onto things. And you can actually do a lot of damage when you can actually pick off the opposing junglers. If you can know the timing of the junglers, then you do know which kind of buff is going to be coming up. And the next big timing would be about that 7-minute mark, 7:05 to 7:10 minute mark. Just because that's when the next buff would be responding for that first buff. And if you can take over that little bit of aggression, you can actually take the early game pretty easily from the other team or opposing team. And getting that extra second buff denies the jungler an extra, well, maybe extra experience, but most importantly denies the middle lane, who is probably more often than not CDR dependent and mana regen dependent, to try to use the wrath into that later game, which will really help your team. Well, first get an extra blue buff, which actually helps out really your team, or get an extra red buff to really help out the extra DPS on the damage, but also secures the damage down onto either dragon or onto a lane gate, just because you can actually just control more of the map, just because you have that extra buff, as well as, you know, having that extra timing onto the map, because you know when your next buff is going to be located. So after the 7-minute mark would be 12-minute mark or stuff like that, just because it'll just keep going and going and going, and you can't really stop it. So getting timings down, like how M5 did to win out their IAM Kiev and other awesome tournaments, really will help you out. But also getting the your team to kind of relocate together really help in solo queue, because yeah, you can go in and you know the timing of the buff, but if you're the only jungler and you're going to be there only by yourself while they have 3 members of the team kind of on you, well, you're just going to have a really bad time, because you're not going to probably come out of that alive. The next really important big mark is about the 10-minute to 14-minute mark, as when the first dragon usually is taken. You see a lot of pressure happening at bot, and they just pick up a kill onto Tristana, so this would be probably the perfect time for both Hecarim and Corki to go with the second. And there you go with that. Having that, you know, generosity of, well, I want to make a play for this bottom lane so I can take the dragon, really will help out and push out the game a little bit faster for either team, but most importantly, catches the red team up a little bit better so that they can keep up the game pace per se. But overall, getting that 10 to 14 minute dragon really will help out your gold, which will skyrocket you in this case for red team. It'll help them get back into the game and secure a little bit of a later game for themselves. Lastly, but not leastly, the last 2 minutes that you want to really watch out for, the 20 and 20 plus minute mark. They are pretty much a determination of where we could go from this mid game to the late game, and also a determination of where, well, I guess the game could go. About the 20-minute mark is really the time that most people think, well, we're up 12, 11, we're going down pretty low in kills and stuff, but we can't really do too much about the team comp right now. Like, this window is kind of just too tanky for us right now, and doing a little bit too much damage on us. And we're seeing the well, the double kill happening for that bottom lane, but we do see the first tower being taken for both teams. It literally looks like, because Tristana and both level are taking their respective top and bottom towers as well. And plus, this man is still trying to get more damage and more kills as well. So very cool to see this. And about that 20-minute mark, you want to say, well, we're at this point where we want to, we're kind of good, but we need a little bit more doubles, or we're kind of bad and we need to catch up. And usually, oftentimes than not, that means the opposing team will, the team that is actually behind will actually just have to, well, group up, stay together, and just get as much damage down so we don't have to die and we don't have to actually do anything else. But again, it's all dependent on where you're at in the game, or if you're the blue team right now, they are kind of ahead, kind of not ahead. They want to just kind of push down onto towers and just get more aggressive and getting more gold objectives, or even possibly getting more kills by securing more areas of the map. Like so. So, I mean, in general, it's all dependent on where you think you're going to be going into that mid to late game, that is for sure. The comps tell how the game should go. In general, comps do kind of tell the game, literally. I mean, we did see that with, I mean, the most important one would be in Season 2 championships, the finals, sorry, World Elite versus CLG EU. World Elite had a really great, probably early game to mid game status for the third final game, technically the third final game that happened on Thursday, but they didn't really have that mid to late game status, and again, CLGU dragged it out to that late game status because they had a really great late game status, or late game comp, and really just hurt the team literally at the end. And that usually just determined by those picks, like literally if you pick Anivia or if you pick Tristana in this instance, you have a better late game comp for sure, but it's also dependent on how you want to play it. Like right now, we'll look at the comp for both teams. Tristana looks like probably going to be the only damage carry literally. I mean, Rise does do a bit of damage and does actually do a lot of damage, but it's a bit more tanky on the side. Nidalee has a lot of poke per se, but isn't really consistent in poke, and actually is building more tanky right now as well because it doesn't have any real damage action per se. And Mundo is like right now just super tanky. He has 6 kills, but doesn't have really anything else on top of that. So it's a lot of it's going to have to rely on the Tristana to actually make the plays. While on the other side, on the red team, everybody looks like he has freaking damage. I mean, geez, even Sona with that awesome Ruby Crystal. I mean, that's a lot of damage with that health. But you know, you really see it with he's haunting guys on top of the double door, and so you really see it with the haunting guys on top of maybe a Rally's Crystal stuff are coming in from the Rumble. And like Corki as well. I mean, Corki just from all that damage. But you also see with Hecarim with even freaking Zeo on top of a team. I mean, that's just a lot of good work for the team for coming out for both Corki and the Hecarim. So damage is going to come out more for this one with Red. So they don't really need to focus on anything about that. They just need to probably get some more kills per se, but also just warm up to get that mid game set. And with that late game, they can just get onto one carry that they need to kill, Tristana, and then win out the game from there. So yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. You have to know what your comp's about, and you have to know what you have to defend. Especially if you're playing the support or the tank role per se, with Nidalee tanking, and the mid tanking technically as well. You have to play that role where, oh, okay, so this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I need to do this now because, yeah, because we're at this timing, and we need to kind of push, or we need to protect this person so that we can push. In the instance of that, it's pretty much, we need to protect Tristana, and we need to just tank it up the turrets, or tank up whoever else we can for damage, and we'll win out that way. So again, that is pretty much the kind of thing you want to look at as a team comp. And usually in solo queue, you can't really depend on that kind of logic. It's good, and it's actually solid, and it'll actually win you games. It'll win you a lot of games as well. You think about your team comp, and then think about what plays you're going to have to make during the mid game to late game to the early game status. But solo queue is more about whoever makes the least amount of mistakes. And right now, I mean, it looks like the red team is making some mistakes, the blue team is making mistakes. Everybody's just not really doing the greatest. Again, Tristana being caught out, not the greatest of times. And you see the engagement about to happen for the team guys. Also has Shadows on top of that, and Rise is just in between a really bad hard fight right now. But we do see a lot of damage going onto that. Hecarim covering it down right to the back. Blacker does pick up that kill over there. We do see Tina going in as well as the Tristana, as the Corki. But we do see the engage coming out. So it looks like blue team should get out of there alive, but again, fortunately for now, Nidalee doesn't have too much damage, and here comes the only Rumble who doesn't miss on the ult, but not the greatest of videos, and does get picked off from that Nidalee near bottom lead, but this is never a good time when you don't have damage, and then, yeah, the damage is just coming out. especially when you know how the Teemo and Teemo coming or Tristana coming back right now is going to help out and just get some kills easily. But again, it's just never a good time where you can't get your 80 carry to actually come back into the game and beat out onto all those little pipsqueaks that we have on the team. So in general, team comps are very important. Yes, they are. But knowing how to use the team comp and knowing what to protect is also very important as well. I mean, team comp is just one thing of the mentality that you can actually learn. But the other thing that you have to actually learn is, I'm playing this way, but I have to make sure that I play a kind of different way. And unfortunately for the team of Blue, Tristana's a little bit aggressive, and when you're an 80 carry that has one of the best ranges in the game, you kind of have to play a little bit faster. What is throwing? Throwing in general is a very, very discouraging term per se, but in its real definition, it's just doing more mistakes than the other team, or giving an advantage when you shouldn't be giving out an advantage. I mean, this is the generosity of the terms of throwing you're seeing from literally the blue team and both from the red team as well, because other teams have been kind of just putting themselves out of position as well. But throwing in general in the game of League of Legends, as they are in any team game, pretty much just giving an advantage to an opposing team when you didn't have to actually give that advantage up. In general, that means this Tristana or the team kind of has to give out against fighters. Like some fights, you were seeing that Monday was kind of focusing on Tristana, which is not the greatest idea. Or you see where the Tristana is chasing down two members of the team. He should be just focusing on Rumble and just getting some kills over there, and letting the outside kind of Rumble out. But again, it's just little things like that will just kind of create so much more per se. Just creating so much more damage, so much more kills. Or right there in this instance, in the Dragon Pit, Rumble and Sona and Corki came in there 3v5 and didn't actually have to go for that dragon. They probably could have slow it, or they probably just could have equalized it and let the dragon damage go down. But they didn't actually have to just go right in there and try to go for the other. If they went for the kill, I mean, it would be good and all if they actually got one, but they're really going to die all together if anything. So it's a good thing that Corki actually backed away. But unfortunately for Sona and also for Rumble, they just died for pretty much no reason. We do see a little bit of engagement over there, Flash being blown by Tristana, and there's a lot of things that go into timings. I mean, in general, there's communication that you want to keep into. You want to know a lot of things about the opposing team. And timings on summoner spells are really important. Timings on ultimates kind of important, but summoner spells pretty much will win you games. That's why you see when you hear pretty much lane partners over in the bottom, especially time out their exhaust, time out their flash, and time out their ignite/cleanse, to know like when those timings are, you'll generally have a greater idea of when to engage and stuff. It's really smart to actually think of it that way. It's also really good to think about all that little bit of extra information to keep you attentive to the game, but also keep you really into the game so that you can get ready for it and picture engager or another question down or not. Again, we do see that little bit of fortuitousness with that window thrown right onto the center of the There's a lot of good damage coming onto that the res over there. Just let it back away a little bit. And a lot of good damage going onto that. But right here, not the greatest of positions for Tristana to be in. So to get cut down. Just pick up the Rumble though. So that's a good trade. But again, not the greatest positions right now for the Mendo to be in as well. And again, both Rise and Italy were taking out that fight really early, just because they just had a lot of damage coming on top of them with the Rise, or with the Rumble, with the Teemo, as well as the Corki. So unfortunately for now, that was a great kind of turn for the red team, getting 2 for 1 no problem too. But they also took the turret as well. They kind of inch closer to that gold score. So very good stuff all over together for that red team. Unfortunately, not the greatest of times for the blue team, because one, Tristana got in there kind of unwarranted just to try to get a steal kill onto Rumble. But 2, the Mundo went straight for that Sona, and Sona's not doing too much damage. I mean, Ruby Crystal again is very strong, but I don't think it's actually going to do too much damage. So yeah, team comps focus, very, very important as well, and it could lead to throwing easily, and more often times than not, again, it's just whoever makes the least amount of mistakes in a game will actually win more often times than not. How does one come back from a snowball game? In general, a snowball game, it really is hard to come back from. It's more often times than not throwing kind of thing who makes the least amount of mistakes, but also when you can actually group up and get to help out your teammates. Again, we were talking about timings. The 20-minute mark really is that determination of, oh, well, we need to group up and push us together as a team to either get more towers scored or catch more people so that we can actually do more damage. And in both kind of instances, that's just trying to force more plays. And once you force a play onto a team, you can either gain more control or you could lose it really, really fast. So in both instances, I mean, they're just trials and whatever you can do literally to try to change the pace of the game, especially if you can win out during the lane phase. So this is a very important thing right there. Again, very important thing right here in this engagement. We see a lot of it again, and we do see the first person go down. Tristana, not the greatest of times. Up there, they are doing a lot of damage, right? So much to their Corki, the Corki did not get out there. So both 80 carries are down, but unfortunately, we do see a lot of damage coming out from that rumble. We do see both the Sona and the team was trying to stay it out over here. I don't think this team was going to be staying out alive with this one. Oh no, actually the team could be staying out alive. What is up with that? Rumble chasing out, finally pushing out that window. We do see the team are picking up the Alistar. Just a lot of good engagement, but again, just catching out one little thing, catching out the Tristana, not the greatest of times. And that's another thing. If you can catch out more important people during fights as a person that's not getting the snowball, it'll really hurt your team. And again, in turn, if you're the people that are snowballing or having like 10 or 12 kills up, and you have your carry caught, you're not going to have a good time during like fights and stuff like that. So definitely go to those sides if you can and try to save your carries. Those are two different things over there as well. But overall, this turn is really just coming into the end, and literally, you know, Baron up, red team up about 3k gold now, and they have 2 kills up. It's really, really going to be hurtful. And again, the only thing they have to do is just focus down on Tristana, and that's really the turn for them. Blue team, they need to push the other as a team, but they can't really do that. And unfortunately, they don't do that as well. Again guys, this has been episode 26 of Learning League and a solo queue watch. Again, it has been L3ID signing through you this awesome episode of the watch. I want to thank you guys for watching and being awesome as a crowd. It's always awesome to see you guys come out each and every time, as well as on the YouTube as well. But also, I want to thank the great website of d-esports.com. You do coverage for the League of Legends, for the StarCraft 2s of the world, and the EVES Online of the world, but also they do CSGO and all the other esports titles around the nation. But also as well, they do some wonderful shows like Chobu to Go to, a very Learning League-esque kind of show. But also as well, they do the CSGO coverage for a lot of tournaments and stuff. Casted by one of the only James Banks. So really cool, really good stuff, as well as our sponsors. Lastly but not leastly, HexMG, Triton, BenQ, MadCat, and Antec. But thank you again for watching again. It has been Learning League episode 26, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one, get your ELO rating up.